I'm still an adolescent. I guess that's something good to celebrate. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Please, as you always do, if you've been here regularly, sign the attendance book and also take a look at it as it comes back to you so that you can refresh your memories or learn those who are with you in your rows so that you can greet them in a few moments. If you have a new concern or share, put it on one of the post-it notes and make sure Dan has it before we have our morning prayer. I'd like to ask that you take a look carefully at the announcements that are posted in the back of your worship this morning, noting especially that a goodly number of our members and Lindale members are well on their way to Detroit to celebrate the destination and to be of assistance and learn from that city and its people this week. So our prayers and our thoughts go with them. I invite you now to greet one another and extend a greeting of love.
Good morning.
Good morning.
It's okay, these things happen.
Good morning again.
Yeah.
Good morning. Good morning. How are you? Right for mass out of the ocean. Good morning again.
Once again, yeah.
Before you're okay.
Yeah. Good morning, Ernie.
How are you?
Pretty good. Wonderful.
You're gonna sing a special, right?
I'm doing yeah. It happens.
We gather together this morning and every Sunday to worship the God who created and loves us, who loves everyone and all of creation, where all are welcome. It's our hope that this worship and our time together deepens our grasp of the breadth and the depth of God's love and equips us to live out lives of love as we share this good news with all we need. Will you stand as you are able to join me in the call to worship? Come with your questions, come with your all.
For the God who broods over the chaos meets us in this place.
Come with your energy, come with your weariness.
For the God who breathes new life into the dust meets us in this place.
Come with your sadness, come with your joy.
For the God who dared to become human meets us in this place.
Come join me in prayer? Faithful God, your mercies to us are new every morning, even when we fail to acknowledge it. In your presence we gather to give you our thanks and praise. You know our hearts in their depths. Your love for us knows no bounds, and your creation unfolds its gifts for us daily. A great tapestry of love you have spread for the care of all your children. Great is your faithfulness unto us. And with that growing awareness, we come humbly and gratefully into this time of worship. And we pray in the words and the spirit of him who taught us. Our Father and Mother, who art in heaven,
Holy is your name. Your kingdom come, your will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts, as we forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For yours is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Before we begin joys and concerns, I just want to let you know there is a change in the order of worship this morning. The special music that is listed for this week will actually be next week, so that you're aware. For joys and concerns, we have lots of things this morning, and one thing I want to say before we start is that I'm going to talk about this a little bit in my sermon, but we had an awful lot of stuff that's kind of weighed us down a little bit these last few weeks. And it's important to not lose sight. As we're going about our daily lives, let's not lose sight of those beautiful moments where God just surprises us. And God is there in creation or in whatever. Let's not lose sight of that in these days that we're living. That is really easy to do. When week after week we've been saying we need to pray for this thing that happened somewhere. I've got some more of those today. So just kind of keep that in your hearts and minds this week. So Joyce, I want you to open up to the very back, go to the very back cover of your bulletin. The Detroit Mission Trip team left early yesterday morning. They made a statement to St. Ignace, Michigan. Stayed there last night, watched some fireworks. Today they will go on into Detroit. So there are 14 people. There are 6 from First Christian, 8 from Lindale. Who went is all listed right here in the very back. So keep them in your prayers this week. They're going to be doing great things in a partnership with Rippling Hope. Rippling Hope is an organization that Pastor Lori is on the board of, has been since the beginning. They do great work reaching out in neighborhoods of Detroit where others have forgotten. And so you're going to see pictures all week on Facebook. If you haven't liked our page, boy, this is a great opportunity to do so you can stay up with what's happening in Detroit always. So keep them in your prayers for safe travels and just for safety and work. Secondly, we're very happy to have Tom back with us this morning. You're probably wondering where Adam and Deb are. Adam and Deb are back down at the conference center in Newton. It is high school week of Adam Camp. And so we want to keep them in our prayers. It is a fun week, and they are a full camp this week. So lots of high school kids doing all kinds of different art. And so just kind of keep all of them in your prayers. It's going to be a fun week. Just some things to lift up. Mary Monum had put on the wall last week prayers for his friend Bob Henry. He's at home after surgery. Also, his brother Bob is wrestling with some issues related to diabetes. We have to lift up a couple of countries, sadly again, Japan, what happened in that home for the disabled, and Normandy, France, 80-some-year-old priest, and that whole community, so we want to keep them in our prayers. Also, I would ask for prayers. I have a teaching colleague from way back in the Nebraska days, who I just found out is in a rehabilitation hospital in Craig, Colorado. Earlier in July, she had a subdermal hematoma accident. I don't know, they're not saying what it was, but my friend Nancy has had 4 brain surgeries. And so there's a gap in the brain, and just it's a litany of stuff. But Nancy's a fighter, so I would ask that you keep Nancy in our prayers. And of course, then last we have Dean and Barb's niece Lindsay Wolf Gonzalez is in a German hospital. They are stationed over there. And she's going to be in the hospital to deal with some issues with the virus she contracted while she was in Europe. So there are some issues there with just being able to deliver the antiviral drugs. There's some issues with that. So I would just ask that you be with them and be with the doctors for wisdom, and just be with her niece Lindsay, her husband, and the family, just that things will lighten up and things will work out. And then, of course, those unspoken things we have on our hearts and our minds this week. Remind us of the amazing ways you have loved us, even when we turned our backs on you. Open our hearts to receive your loving spirit. Open our minds to receive your wisdom. Open our hands to show others your loving compassion. Lord of love and light, we hold in our hearts those around us who feel unloved. We bring them to you for you to shine your love into their lives. We hold in our minds those who are overwhelmed by their needs and difficulties. We hold in our hands your loving compassion to give them. We especially remember Bob, Lindsay, Nancy, the city of Normandy, and the country of Japan. Lord of love and light, there are people in places that are dark, and in the dark about your love. Shine forth your light and love in their lives and in those places. There are people in places that have closed their mind to you and to others and to new and fresh ideas. Shine forth your light and love to open their minds to you and to others and to new and fresh ideas. There are people in places that need our hands reaching out to them with your loving compassion. May our reaching out to them with your love and compassion shine forth your light and shine forth your love. Amen. And now would the children come forth?
I don't know that we actually have any children, so I invite you all this morning to get in touch with your inner child. sure you all have one, possibly two. Sometimes I have my good inner child, and sometimes she's naughty. But I kind of went back to my inner child as I was thinking about this week's children's sermon. I got asked several weeks ago, "Can we do the children's sermon at the end of July?" Sure. And I said to Deb a couple weeks ago, "Are we going to be done with Job by the time we get to my children's sermon?" No. Okay. Well, can you give it to me in advance? Sure. Serpents. Sea serpents and questions. I got nothing. It was like reading a language that I should understand, but I couldn't understand. So I emailed Dan, and I said, "Dan, what's this about?" And he emailed something back, and he said, "It's chaos and questions." And I got to thinking then about when I was a kid, and a book that I loved when I was a kid, and this was my initial reaction, and it turned out to be a good reaction when I first read today's lesson. This is a book about the Moomin Troll. My mom brought it back from Norway when she studied in Norway, and she read it to me when I was a kid, and I loved it. I absolutely loved it. Because the Moomin Troll is this critter who looks sort of like a hippo, but he's not really a hippo. But the best thing about the book is that throughout the book, there are all these fabulous pictures. And with each picture on each page, there's a little peek into what's next. And there are questions. At the end of each page, what do you suppose happens next? So it's a book about questions. Now, what really got me thinking about this book was that when I started to learn how to read, I really wanted to be able to read this book because it was one of my favorite books. I loved looking at the pictures. And I knew the story. And I would look at it, and I'd think, okay, maybe next month I'll understand this book. And I didn't. And I kept trying to read it, and I didn't understand it. And I thought, well, how much is that like reading parts of the Bible? Especially these parts of Job, where you read it and you say, I don't get it. The words are there, I don't get it. And I finally asked my mom, I said, why am I not understanding this book? She said, oh honey, it's in Norwegian. I said, but you read it to me in English. She said, well, I translated it. So I still can't read this book. A couple of words, but I mostly can't read the book, but I still love this book. And to me, that really speaks to how we approach Job, how we approach the Bible. There will be parts that we don't understand. Just like parts of this book, there are parts that are absolute chaos. There are parts that are just questions. So I invite you all to embrace that little kid in you that was learning how to read, and maybe like me, you picked up a book and you kept thinking, someday I'm going to understand this book. Hopefully it wasn't in Norwegian for you. So maybe you did eventually understand it. But I invite you to just open yourself up to those questions and to that chaos.
With the expectation of a child and the approaching wisdom of adults, may we hear this word from Job. Job hears God say, can you draw out Leviathan with a fish hook? Or press down its tongue with a cord? Can you put a rope in its nose? Pierce its jaw with a hook? Will it make supplications to you? Will it speak soft words to you? Will it make a covenant with you to be taken as your servant forever? Will you play with it as with a bird? Or will you put it on a leash for your girls? Will traders bargain over it? Will they divide it up among the merchants? Can you fill its skin with harpoons or its head with fishing spears? Lay hands on it. Think of the battle. You will not do it again. May we hear the word of the Lord.
Omaha's Henry Dorley Zoo and Aquarium is nationally renowned for its leadership in animal conservation and research. Evolving from the public Riverview Park Zoo established in 1894, today the zoo includes several notable exhibits. Kingdoms of the Night is the world's largest nocturnal exhibit in indoor swamp. The Leaf Jungle is one of the world's largest indoor rainforests. And the Desert Dome is the world's largest indoor desert, as well as the largest glazed geodesic dome in the world. The zoo is Nebraska's top paid attendance attraction and has welcomed more than 25 million visitors over the past 40 years. In August 2014, TripAdvisor proclaimed the Henry Dorley Zoo the world's best zoo, beating out San Diego and Laurel Park in Spain. When I first moved to Omaha in the late 1980s to go to school, the zoo was mere blocks from the college, and it was always a fun go-to place. During my 2 stints of living in Omaha, I watched the zoo grow into the world-class destination that it is today. Anytime family or friends came to visit, you can guess where we were going to go. One year during my bus company days, we had our holiday party in the Kingdom of the Seas Aquarium. Brown sugar and ham and turkey while sharks are swimming above you. That was something else. However, the zoo was more, much more than a tourist attraction. It was a place that fed my soul spiritually. Many of the animals in the exhibits were those that you wouldn't find anywhere else, of animals both safe and dangerous, of biospheres half a world away. And in that, I always found awe for God's creation. And I always found my settings readjusted. My soul, attitude, and outlook were always reset by the time I would finish visiting the Henry Dorley Zoo. Now you're sitting there probably wondering what in the world this zoo tale has to do with today's text from Job. Well, last week we saw a change of direction in the discussion between Job, Job's friends, and God. God finally weighed in. And we're all thinking, oh good, we're going to get those answers, we're going to get all that stuff we want. And guess what? God weighed in all right, but not with the concrete, cut and dried answers that we were looking for, but with an awful lot of questions of God's own for Job. God started pushing down on Job's reset button last week, coming in a tempest and giving Job a meteorological and creation lesson. Later in chapters 38, 39, 40, and today, chapter 41, God continues Job's reset with a trip to the zoo, so to speak, talking about the different plants, the different animals, and the whole creation and their importance. Many commentators note that animals are powerful symbols in all human cultures, although their emotive and symbolic significance varies greatly from one culture to another. Think with me for a moment about Egyptian hieroglyphics and Native American cave paintings. Animals play a prominent role in both of those. That said, in the religious and cultural context of the ancient world, the sphere of the wild is the other against which human society defined itself. Consequently, attitudes toward the wild and the animals in it are ambivalent, but largely negative. And so Job's attitude would be no different. However, as I said earlier, God is pushing Job's reset button. And through this hypothetical zoo excursion, God continues to show Job the wild beauty of creation. The horse runs, the eagle soars, rejoicing in their freedom. And in this part of the conversation, God points to 2 animals, Behemoth and Leviathan. In the previous chapter, chapter 40, verses 15 through 18, God points to an animal called Behemoth. Many conclude that Behemoth can be compared to the hippopotamus, although I agree more with one commentator that based on the passage itself, sounds more like a water buffalo. Look at Behemoth, which I made just as I made you. It eats grass like an ox. Its strength is in its loins, and its power in the muscle of its belly. It makes its tail stiff like a cedar tree. The sinews of its thighs are knit together. Its bones are tubes of bronze, its limbs like bars of iron. And then there is Leviathan. Leviathan is one of the names of the legendary sea dragon in the ancient Near East, a symbol of chaos. This character shows up in other places in the Bible as both a negative character, a twisting serpent and sea dragon in Isaiah 27, and then in Psalm 104, it's a creature formed by God to sport and frolic in the sea. Now, I don't have proof for the next thing I'm about to say, but I do sometimes wonder if Leviathan serves as an early version of the Loch Ness Monster and all of the stuff that goes with that, all the ancient stories and current stories. In any case, if you look at this, there's some absurdity in the passage. Now, I know there are some of you in the room this morning who enjoy fishing. Now, fishing, believe it or not, is something I used to do when I was a kid. I know you're totally shocked. And because there is nothing better than to watch the sun rise while you are trolling for rainbow trout on a lake in eastern Washington. Now, I was taught that it was always important that you have to have the right hook, the right line, and the right pull for the type of fish you are trying to catch. Now, based on the description of today's text, you are certainly not going to catch Leviathan with a fish hook and a line, or a whaling hook, or anything else. God created Behemoth in the same way Job was created, but Behemoth has way more power than its human counterpart and is unable to be captured. The same is true for Leviathan. There is no weapon strong enough to destroy it or even harm it. God and God alone can control Leviathan. Well, that's nice, and you're probably saying that's a nice lesson about animals and a nice new trip, but what's the point? Well, a short answer is that God is reminding Job that it's not just all about him. As one commentator reminds us in this part of the discussion, humanity is not the center of creation, but is the other way around. At the same time, humanity in the person of Job is the only passenger on this grand tour of the cosmos last week and creation this week. God invites Job to see the world from a God's eye point of view and to delight in its beauty as God does. Another thought that I've been living with this week. I was really cranky when I headed home from church last Sunday, and I could not figure out why. We had a great Sunday school class as we wrapped up the first of the Darkwood Brew video series that we're doing with Salem and with Glendale. We had a good service, got to talk to a couple people among you that I had not seen for a while. Yet, as I was driving home, I just felt that there's this black cloud hanging over my head. And I have to confess to all of you this morning that I did not deal very nicely with some traffic issues I encountered driving north on Glendale to get to 94 last Sunday. So later in the day, as I helped my husband pick raspberries, we're out in the backyard, and you've got to kind of wade through our raspberry bush because that storm 3 weeks ago that we had, the really bad windstorm, kind of took our raspberry bush and went like this. And so you got to kind of do this to get to the raspberries. And I realized as I was digging through one side of the patch that the prayers of the people had really gotten to me. And I was angry. Now, hear me, I am not angry. This is not about any of you and any of your requests. So hear me say that. But I was angry that for the third week in a row we were mentioning mass bombings and shooting deaths around the world and in our own nation. On Tuesday, Pastor Rhonda and I were talking about stuff. And somehow we got onto the subject of the prayers in our services. And on Tuesday morning, I shared my utter frustration that that day already there had been 2 more incidents. And that I hated that this was the new normal. And I was wondering how not to become callous. And for a moment, like Job has done earlier, wonder if God was doing this. And if we were honest today, I think that's something we've all felt over these past few weeks. Rhonda reminded me of 2 things. One, as I mentioned earlier this morning, that in these times it is really important and crucial, and we must be intentional about remembering to look for the positive things in God's creation around us. And the second thing she said really struck me. That even in the midst of all of this, God is still here. That God is in the chaos. I'm going to say that again. God is in the chaos. We saw last week from Pastor Lori's sermon that God showed up in the tempest. God was there in the midst of the storm, and God is here in the midst of the storm. Stop for a minute and ponder that. Job has been crying out against the chaos of human life, but how much greater is the chaos with which God is striking? This cosmic glimpse by no means answers any of Job's questions, and if we're to be honest, not any of our questions. But Job has received a new vision with which to approach God and a new perspective on the divine reality. There is humorous incongruity, and there is deep mystery in the text. And that, my dear friends, is where we are going to hang out this week until next Sunday, when we finish the book of Job. We're going to hang out this week in the humorous incongruity, and we're going to hang out in that deep mystery. And now it's that part of the service where we invite those that are looking for a church home, or we invite those who are looking for a place that says, you know what, we don't have all the answers, but we're sure going to walk together, and we're going to work through those tough texts, and we're going to work through those things that we don't have the answers for, and we're going to do it together as a church family and as a community. I invite you to stand and sing our song of commitment. I will meet you at the front.
Everything
it's easy to be totally overwhelmed by the news of the world. Our news media are regularly reporting one crisis after another. Natural disasters, violent conflicts cause many people to be displaced and in urgent need of assistance. And we also have the needs for the many countless individuals in our own communities who are homeless, living in poverty, hungry, the sick and the lonely, the young school child who needs a tutor, the elderly person who needs some help at home, persons struggling with addiction and mental illness, and the list goes on and on. And sometimes I fear, what can I do that could make a difference? Anything that I have to offer seems small and insignificant. But this is where I have it wrong. It's not about what I can do, or even what you can do, or what we can do together. It's what God can do with what we have to offer. The story of Jesus feeding the 5,000 reminds us of this very fact. The disciples were told to feed the crowd, a seemingly impossible task. But they brought to Jesus what they had, the 2 small fish and the 5 loaves of bread. And Jesus did not reject the offering, but instead gave thanks for it and transformed it into something marvelous. What it teaches us is that when we come to God with hope and with sincerity, what we have to offer, no matter how small or insignificant it may seem to us, He can make it into something mighty. We will now present our offerings to God.
Well, I enjoy reading about history, especially U.S. history. And I have no military background myself, but I enjoy books about the Revolutionary and Civil Wars and the World Wars. I'm always amazed by the sacrifice of the young soldiers and the officers during these conflicts and what they gave up because of the love for their country. It's difficult for me to imagine going through those situations myself. There's something very stirring about self-sacrifice. Of course, no greater example of that can be found in Christ himself. Paul wrote in Hebrews, For by one offering he has perfected forever those who are being sanctified. Jesus offering himself on our behalf is a measure of his love for us. That willing sacrifice continues to rescue men and women and offers assurance of eternity with him. I invite all to participate in the celebration of that sacrifice given for us. So at this time, please share the peace of Christ with us in unity.
Hey, how you doing today?
I saw in communion, speaks to my heart, page 304. God of love and grace, words can never capture the wonder of the sacrifice that Christ offered on our behalf. May our love respond to you with faith and worship, for your Son who was slain is worthy of our praise. Amen. The Lord Jesus, on the night that he was betrayed, took bread, and when he had given thanks, he broke it and said, "This is my body, which is for you. Do this in remembrance of me." In the same way, after supper, he took the cup, saying, "This cup is the new covenant in my blood. Do this whenever you drink it in remembrance of me." For whenever you eat this bread and drink this cup, you proclaim the Lord's death until he comes.
Thank you all so much for being here in worship this morning. I want to invite you to join us upstairs for food and fellowship afterwards in the gathering space. I also want to invite you to join Gary at 12 noon. Yes? And where are you going to
We're going to be down here, those of you who've been doing the following Richard Gore. We'll eat after having fight upstairs and then come down here and talk about our response to war and some of the approaches to contemplation.
And a couple other things, remember in the bulletin, we've got information about Bring Your Water. You've got the vacation to do this. And worship in the park is on the 21st. It's really important that you read this because there's construction over there and we don't have access to their fridge this year. So if you've got stuff you need to keep cool that day, remember to put some ice in the cooler and bring the cooler. And then mission team on the backside, keep them in your prayers this week. Let's stand for benediction.
As the conversation continues, let us live in love and peace and mystery. And may the mystery and the love and the peace of God live with us today and forever. Amen.
Amen.